That's why it's so important to press for a border bill. There's not going to be any comprehensive immigration reform under Donald Trump. I can almost promise you. Donald Trump just passed a fucking 900-page bill full of everything that he aims to do in this administration. I wouldn't be shocked if this is the last big bill that gets passed, period. Donald Trump has already come out and said we didn't need a new legislation, we needed a new president.
Yeah, so actually got introduced to your channel. You were in Raging Tomato or whatever, and
I thought so.
yeah. I can't remember what's the night. Probably was it Rob's night or whatever.
Yeah, I've been on with Rob a couple times. It was probably it was either the one where he debated Radical Coder the other night, or the one where he did the big open panel
But
about not taking Democrats seriously.
that's where I saw when he debated Radical Coder there, and then you remember me? I was the one that Calvin Cedar came up, and I was like,
Oh shit, were you the Oh wait. Were you the one that 1v1'd him where he did like the black scent at you? Is that you?
let me say it again.
Were you the one where like Sarah 1v1'd you and he did the black scent at you?
Black sign.
The black scent where he was like trying to talk black at you?
No, 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 no. I was the one that said I told you and Ryan not to let Rob fool you. He's trying to deflect or whatever. And
Oh, yes. I know. You were
I
at the
told,
beginning. Yes, you were talking
yeah, at
about
the
like
beginning.
the yeah, okay, gotcha. Yes, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
clocked it. Locked in. Okay, yeah, I got you. I thought you were
yeah.
oh,
The
fuck.
other black guy that was kind of drunk or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm not good at
That was
recognizing voices.
yeah. He was I seen him on other channels before. I did have to after I went down. I did left it because he went for that went on for like 3 hours, right?
Yeah, way too long.
4 hours. Yeah, it was like like a 4 hour stream after party, whatever the case may be. Did you stay to the wars to end?
Yeah, I stayed for the whole panel. I got to talk to Rob for like probably a combined 5 minutes, but it is what it is.
As usually it's that was your first time bumping heads with him, right?
It was the second time talking to Rob specifically, but I've been on Sarah's panel probably like 4 or 5 times, maybe six.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I can't remember. I think I got introduced to her panel by trailing what's his name? Gridlock. I don't know if you know Gridlock or whatever.
Grid one.
Grid one.
Yeah. So the way I got introduced to the channel was one of the dudes that's in this server. His name is Classy Neurotic, and
Mhm.
he reached out to me to do a 2v2 debate on Doge. And I agreed, and it was through Sarah, and Sarah found the two opponents, which were Grid One and Pentuple. So we did a 2v2
Okay.
on Sarah's panel about Doge.
I think I I think I probably saw that one or some got some of the extra. Question now, I noticed that you want to go up there because Rob does have an open panel. I didn't want to hold you up if you want to try to
Oh, like right now? No. I'm not doing that right now. The one thing that I would feel comfortable arguing with him on, I still haven't done enough reading on. So
so yeah, speaking of that, I did pop up on his channel like 2 days later. And yeah, I realized when you're debating Trump people, and I knew better, I knew this, you need to come with your facts in tow or whatever because generally a lot of them they lie and obfuscate
mhm.
and they're not genuinely honest about the facts. And as I'm learning Rob is tends to be that type. Um,
Yeah,
he's very good. Go
Rob's
ahead.
strength, I think, comes from he knows everything about the particular thing that he's talking about, which is really, really
Mhm.
cool. But
Hmm.
the problem with the way that I think he engages is that he kind of buries the lead whenever he's talking about a particular thing, where he'll frame it in the absolute least charitable way possible, and he'll only introduce kind of exculpatory or like contextually needed details whenever the other person introduced them first, and he has no other choice but to acknowledge them. So he'll say, like, oh, like what's an example where he was like, "Oh yeah, Joe Biden read out classified information to his ghostwriter." And it was like after he said, this part's probably classified, and then skipped it for the day, and then it was like 2 months later that he read the part off because he was a dementia riddled old man and he didn't know that he didn't remember what part was classified. It was like like a lot of context around it that makes it a lot more at least understandable that won't
Yeah,
be that he refuses to introduce unless it's
exactly.
already introduced by the person. Yeah.
Exactly. He don't you can't rely on him um to provide that type of evidence because he's not that genuine. Can you give me 10 seconds?
Yeah, no problem.
Back.
No problem.
Yeah, so Rob, yeah, I'm realizing that about him. He tries to he presents himself as a earnest debater, like he's like, I'm honest, I'm forthright with the evidence or whatever the case may be. He even was that the black? No, he wasn't on that night. Davon.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah, yeah,
Davon?
yeah. I was oh fuck, what was the I was on the panel where they had their
That was the first time he was on there because he
yeah,
was
yeah,
doing his
yeah.
first debate on there,
Yep, I was on
and
that one
that's
too. Yep.
and Soy Pill came up. That was the night that him Soy Pill
Yep,
tried to
yep.
come up, and he didn't want to talk to him. And Davon came up that night. So Davon actually came on his panel like a couple days later, and they had a conversation. And Davon, yeah, it was a situation where it was something that Davon did not believe or question or whatever. And like that's why I kind of knew he knows his stuff because he had went through and read some the transcript from some trial or whatever. So I'm like, okay, he's that detailed. He's reading transcripts from trials or whatever. So it was something that Davon had questioned, and Dave, he made him go look for something, and he said, once I do this, I'm gonna boot you. And he found that bit of information, and he booted him because he felt he was like dishonest,
Hmm.
a dishonest debater. And I'm like, okay, cool, I can respect that. But he's guilty of the same thing, so I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm always going to have I think I've said this a couple times where I think Rob is probably the best conservatives have to offer when it comes to debate, just because asking a conservative to know a lot of nitty gritty details on literally anything ever is a very, very, very tall task. So the fact that somebody can do it, I appreciate a lot, and that makes talking to Rob a lot more interesting than talking to a lot of the other conservative content creators that a lot of the times are just too afraid to actually come up and talk about anything relevant, or they just spend all their time like philosophy jerking off. But um, yeah, I appreciate Rob's presence when it comes to the online political debate. It's just there's certain there's certain things that definitely calls his I don't know if I'd say like integrity. I don't know if I'd be that harsh, but like his honesty into question, I think.
yeah. He does. He does. Well, I see him as in certain cases as being honest. Has an affinity for Pisco and is that name is
Yeah.
Pisco? You know
Yeah,
who
yeah,
that
yeah.
is, right? And that whole kind of elite upper echelon group and Destiny,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever the
yeah.
case may be. So he's trying to get on that wave level with them or whatever. But he, yeah, and another thing I learned about him is that he's very like he went to school for political science and debating. So he's been debating since he
Yeah.
was in college. So this is like second nature to him. He can get up here and he just can spin and do things of that nature.
Mhm.
Yeah, as you say, he's very um he learning. He reads a lot because he wants to be on that level. So aside from him, you said you gave him like your you said he's like up there, like one of like your top or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyone else from that group? So I've been like looking at I guess I just got within the past 2 months got introduced to her channel and all these different debates or whatever. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, this is like a little interesting thing right here.
Yeah.
Um,
So, it depends on what you're looking for. So I mean,
mhm,
like when you're looking at really good conservative debaters, you're going to be looking at like if you're looking for somebody who kind of represents like the populist leaning side of like the Republican Party right now, Rob Noor is the perfect person to go to, and he is like the steelman example of that kind of archetype.
mhm,
I think Andrew Wilson is a really, really good person when it comes to like the
yeah,
overall worldview, or like the if you want to get into the philosophy. I think he's really good at debating that kind of stuff. But if I'm being honest, aside from like the Crucible guys, like I don't know if I find a lot of the conservative debaters um, particularly convincing. I mean, like I like Lactoid is the one dude that I think because he's just a like literally a lawyer, so he'll just be a lawyer, you know. And I'm going to have a lot of respect for those people because you're necessarily going to have like a very very
yeah,
strong legal foundation for everything you're talking about. So I also really like
yeah.
Lactoid, but like other than those
So
three, I mean, like none of them really stand out to me as particularly strong. Outside of like the mainstream, like obviously if you're going on and you're debating somebody like Tucker Carlson, he's going to know a lot because his job is literally to day cover the news.
yeah,
So, but he's
yeah.
kind of outside of the scope of what I'm talking about.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a question before a question, but I'm a sidetrack for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Have in terms of are you familiar with Parker and I forgot the little
Yeah,
TikTokers?
Parker and Dean and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about those two
Um,
specifically?
I have infinite gratitude to Dean because I do the TikTok live streams too. That's how I do a lot of the
Okay.
debates. I have
Okay.
infinite gratitude to Dean because he came up in my TikTok live once, and that was cool. But
Okay.
I think that I think Parker is a lot smarter than Dean. I think Dean I don't know if I'd say bad faith, but it feels like most of his engagement
Yeah.
is literally just there to look good, and I don't think it really. I mean, it's effective in getting some of the people who don't really think a lot about politics, but I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of his engagement with the actual issues feels super performative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Parker, I mean, like he has an econ degree, so he can at least like know what he's talking about in that respect. But I mean, he kind of falls into the same problem just because I think like a lot of the people on TikTok fall into this problem of like kind of oversimplifying legitimate problems for the sake of
Uh-huh.
like performativity, and I don't
Winning it.
really love that.
Yeah. 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 And I also find that they it's like I can't. The way would describe it is like microwave debate. They'll like have a formula or whatever, like
Yep.
a roadmap, and they
Yeah.
try to get you in that road, so they can ask their questions or whatever, so they can get to this point. It's like it's like reduced to some type of game, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's necessarily
The
like
way
that.
that a lot of people in this scene like to describe that is like dialogue trees, or I've heard somebody say like a like a script debate, where
Uh-huh.
it's just like you try everything you possibly can to get them to mold into what you're used to, and then you could just keep walking them down that line.
Yeah.
That super exists right now for people on the left and people on the right. Like the dialogue tree people are just super um present because you can just be lazy. Like you can just funnel people into the one subject you know, and all you need to learn is one subject, and you could just completely ignore everything else. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean, it's really popular because you can be lazy and not do a lot of reading and still be somewhat kind of politically effective and get followers and shit. But Yeah, I, I definitely don't care for it. Um,
Mm,
and that is
Rob,
a big reason why I don't like the way that Dean goes about stuff is because he is super dialogue tree e.
he's very smart. You can tell he's smart because he can, especially like I would definitely go for him. I listen to like a lot of econ talking points and things of that nature. So I definitely listen to him to pick up certain stuff because he
Mm-hmm.
knows that stuff like real well. So I like him for that. I think yeah, if he expands his repertoire a little bit more, whatever, like certain things. I mean, like I said, I'm independent. I
Yeah,
do
sure.
see flaws in the left or whatever the case may be. So,
Mm-hmm.
like border and things of that nature, I don't think their argument is as strong on the border as well. They're a little bit disingenuous or whatever in that case may be.
That's
But
funny because I agree. Like I identify myself as an independent as well. Like I don't like doing the super hard party line stuff, but the border is one of the issues where I'm probably, if not a pretty much 1-to-1 aligned with the Democratic Party. I'm like maybe a little further left than the Democratic Party is. So that's
what do you mean? You're further left on the border?
yeah.
Okay, so in what regards? And you know what? I said I wasn't sidetracking. We're going further down the way, and I forgot my question already. But go ahead.
My bad.
No, it's my fault.
Yeah. So
But
I
go ahead.
mean, when it comes to handling the border, I think that everyone acknowledges that there is a problem and that the problem needs to get fixed, and we can at least agree with that, like on that at a very fundamental level. But the problem is that um I feel like the Democrats are way more poised to offer actual real long-term solutions than the Republicans are. It feels like the Republicans basically just want to do an authoritarian crackdown on immigration enforcement and then throw the band-aid on and kick the can down the road to the next administration to actually fix anything, which seems like kind of a pattern with the Trump's, you know, and the Republican Party broader. Their method of leading is just let's make everything like quickly satisfying in 4 years and then leave all of the bad negative side effects for the next 4 years. So I think the Democrats have a more coherent plan in the sense that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden both committed to signing that border bill that Lankford wrote. That would at least be something. I think Kamala Harris. I actually don't know if Harris and Biden came out and explicitly supported this, but like some sort of mass amnesty, I'd probably be on board with. And that's definitely going to be a more left leaning thing. I think that the biggest problem is I think that the Republicans are just way too interested in demonizing illegal immigrants and asylum seekers, and like making it feel like these people aren't even human and they don't deserve like moral consideration. They're like sending these people to like torture camps even though they had no
Mhm.
ability to like litigate their claims. Like these harsh, like super harsh enforcement measures just don't are just like really unconscionable to me. And it feels like a lot of the, I agree that there is a problem, but I don't think it's the same problem that Republicans point out, because I think the problem is that, you know, legal immigrants are so disincentivized from actually coming into the country the legal way because our legal system, like the legal way to come into the country, is fucked in like 5 million different ways, and the wait times are insane. So the process would be to make this more efficient, not to cut the border off completely and make it so immigrants have no pathway to citizenship and just shut everybody out of the country and do whatever we can to get them out as quickly as possible. Um, I feel like what Republicans are doing right now is a solution in search of a problem, where like they're trying to somehow say that immigrants are freeloaders who are draining the government of their resources, but they're also somehow taking jobs from American people, and we need to get them out. And somehow it's going to help the economy by decreasing our workforce. And we're bringing all of these manufacturing jobs here, even though we're decreasing our workforce. It feels like all of these things are completely and utterly contradictory. And the Republican approach towards immigration is just like so scatterbrained and in search of like any justification to, and I think it's just because they want to demonize a group and they want to blame all of the problems on a group, and they want to get this group out as quickly as possible because they they set the standard that this group is responsible for like all of the bad things right now. um so that was very rambly and you know, But
No,
that's kind
I
of my take on everything.
I hear you. Um, I think when as you address the border, I guess there's two parts to it, I would see. There's one that has to do with um migrating or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
Um, and then also the second part to me has to do with, I guess, the illegal stuff that the people who come through illegally, jumping, whatever.
Hmm.
So, I and I think with Republicans focus more on is the illegal crossing, and I think that we've been, or the I said we, the left has been weak on that aspect, and
Yeah,
and that really did caught up with Biden because he was able to run on that
I
facet,
I
the
partially
legal
agree,
part.
but I think that a big thing that the Republicans were really successful in doing as well. Sorry, I think I cut out for a second. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think something Republicans were really successful in doing is lumping all kinds of immigrants into this like broad illegal
Hmm.
thing. Um,
Hmm.
so when Donald Trump talked about like this influx of illegal immigrants, he wasn't just talking about like people who hop the border because realistically that percentage of people is like what is it like a million people probably like I don't know like like illegal border crossings are very hard to track, but I'm pretty sure that number is like fairly minuscule compared to the kind of like world breaking country eating problems that the Republicans are pointing out. Because a big thing that they lumped in when they were talking about these illegal immigrants were asylum seekers waiting for their asylum claims to be litigated. Um, and that's fine. There's not a problem with asylum seekers. I don't I like there's a problem in that um they are like sometimes they're here too long, and there should be something to be done about like processing asylum claims quicker, but there's not a problem fundamentally with the idea of seeking asylum. And whenever Donald Trump was like demonizing illegal border crossers, he was also demonizing asylees waiting for their case to be heard at the same time. And I think that that was really efficient in Donald Trump overblowing the problem and kind of lumping all of these people in to this group that like we would both agree that if you said, okay, we should deport all of the illegal immigrants with violent criminal records, I'd say, fuck yeah, that's fine. We absolutely should do that. We have a moral imperative to do it. But the problem is that whenever Donald Trump says deport like criminal illegals, he's talking about people who just are waiting for their asylum thing to go through because they're an undocumented immigrant. That like, or people who haven't been like litigated as the gang members that they're claiming them to be, or like uh, illegal immigrants who are illegal just by extension of crossing the border. Like I don't know that these are. It's just it was very convenient to lump all of these groups in together because you can kind of skirt off of any accountability for like they don't have to say yeah we should close down asylum. They can just say we have to do something about illegal immigrants. You know.
My issue with that, or the issue that I do see with that, is yes, we definitely want to respect the asylum seekers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something we want to do. But I think what the left does, they don't account for, or yeah, they don't factor in or acknowledge that there are people who are gaming the system or coming here and claiming asylum, and it's really not that case. They just want a
Mm-hmm.
quicker or easy way way into the country. And I think we come if the left were to address that, along with like, yeah, we need to, you know, help address asylum seekers, and also acknowledge that we do recognize that people are you know, taking advantage of the system,
Mm-hmm.
then it would work over and over and over with the general public. But I think it's that position that I see from the left. It's always, um, you know, that what about the asylum seekers? What about the, these people they're coming from a distant country and
Hmm.
they're in trouble, wherever the case may be. It's never that situation where they acknowledge that people are gaming the system. So, if they, I think if it's a more balanced approach, um, it would go over a little bit more well with the viewing public.
So I think this also illustrates one of the big problems that I think the country is having right now is that the Democrats, I think, engage way too much on the standards that Republicans set for them, and they work inside the framing that Republicans give them, basically. So they're kind of forced to kind of bite the bullets that you are describing right now, because that's the way that the Republicans are framing their policy positions, and the Democrats are just not good at driving the national narrative. But I mean, when we look at the legislation that Democrats were committing to sign on, the whole thing was just litigating asylum claims quicker so we can kick out the people who are fraudulently claiming asylum. They acknowledge that there is a problem with too many asylum seekers here. There is a problem with people. I think the fraud rate for asylum claims is somewhere around like 70%. It's like super way too high. Um,
Mhm.
but the bill that the Democrats wanted to sign, that Trump ended up calling senators to kill, had a way to process these fraudulent asylum claims quicker to actually ensure that the valid asylum seekers could have their claims litigated in a quick fashion, and to make sure that we could kick out the ones that were gaming the system, like you were describing, in a more efficient way.
Okay, true indeed. My and my issue, or my, I wouldn't say my, well, the reform bill to me came way too late. And what was what the Republican and Donald Trump was able to do is take advantage of that time frame when, what's that, when we had COVID and we had remain in Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
that policy was in place. And then when that was released, or whatever the case may be, the Republicans at that point in time tried to do some type of border reform, but then Biden was like, no, wherever the case may be. And then Trump says it's like 10 million people. They try to make it this huge number, but there were a lot of people that were coming across the border during that time before they tried to do that border reform. And I think that was one of the huge negatives that weighed on Kamala's campaigns because y'all yeah y'all kind of like letting the border go crazy, and
Yeah.
now we're at election time, and yeah, you want to do your policy, yeah, you want to, but you know what you did for like a year and a half, you just you kind of let it go crazy, and Trump was wanting to take advantage of that. So yeah,
I
that was my.
yeah, and that's one of the things where I'm super sympathetic to. Like, I agree that, so title I think it was Title 42. That was the thing that shut the border down
Mhm.
on, emergency bases because of COVID. We couldn't guarantee that all of these people were sanitary. We just shut the border down. No more coming in while this is in place. That ended in 2023, I think. Um, so that I understand why there was like no wide scale border reform from, the entering office to 2023, because Title 42 was in place. Um, there's about a year of inaction from Joe Biden that I think was pretty bad. I think the border bill that was proposed a year after the expiration of Title 42 probably should have been proposed a lot sooner, and the inaction there was probably really bad. I agree. The only thing I would say to that is I would always prefer a party who is a year late to action than a party who won't do anything. Like, this is something that I point out a lot with, because I talk to a lot of conservatives about the border on TikTok. Like, there is not going to be a Donald Trump border bill. There was not a Donald Trump border bill in his first term. He is not going to pass any sort of comprehensive immigration reform at all. He, like, in the big beautiful bill, he like funded ICE, he funded the border wall, but there's not going to be any reforms to the systems that we're seeing. The only party that has any interest in reforming the systems that we see to make our immigration system more efficient is Democrats. Donald Trump is going to put a bunch of band-aid solutions and kick the can down the road for the next administration. So even if the Democrats were a year late, I would always pick that over somebody who's not going to do anything.
So here's, like I said, I'm independent.
Hmm.
When it comes to the border, here's why I tend to lean right a lot. And I'll kind of give you the basis for my ideology surrounding border. So here's how I look at it. If you live like in an apartment or whatever the case may be, and a gated community, whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
and you're paying rent, whatever the case may be, and or even if you have yeah, like a business where you renting out your business into different people, whatever in the case, it, renting out a lot to different business, and they have patrons and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Um, it is the responsibility legally of that owner, that person that owns that property, that owns those apartments or whatever, to provide a level of, like, say, security. Like, you have to have proper lights or whatever the case may be. You
Hmm.
have to do some due diligence to ensure that the people who you are renting to, or whatever the case may be, are protected in some regards.
Yeah.
That's how I see the government in terms of the border. It is their job to ensure that they're doing their due diligence to make sure that, you are not allowing people who should not come across the border illegally. That's your job. Um you can't just, like, turn a blind eye. I understand that. I see what they're trying to do. I mean, the more I guess people come, they're probably going to be a, a Democrat at the end of the day if they become citizens. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like building your voting block from the vantage point of a Democrat. But and at the end of the day, you also letting people in here that are illegal, may not necessarily know our rule. What I'm trying to get at is putting you and me at risk to a degree, the American public, because these people are not, like identified, toe tagged, or whatever the case may be. So that's how I kind of see the border,
Hmm.
and from that aspect of a right and wrong. It's not, despite how long it may take you to get through that, come through here legally. You can't just jump the line illegally and jump the fence because we haven't gotten our reform correct. And that's how I kind of look at the issue from that vantage point, and it kind of drives the way I think.
Hmm.
But to come greet you, meet you where you're at, um, there there does need to be some reform, as you said, in terms of allowing legal immigration that comes in. And I agree at this point in time. I agree with you. I don't think that a new border reform bill is going to get passed because, and I'm gonna turn the mic over to you in about 20 seconds.
Take your time, buddy.
um, I don't think that bill is going to get passed because Trump is using, like, his presence, like, look here, you don't even need a border reform bill. My presence here
Uh
as
huh.
a stern person on this border is the reform that you needed. All you needed was a strong leader to enforce what's going on at the border, which is true. He if the only that would be the border area, would be the only aid that I would give Donald Trump, in terms of him to be able to regulate that without any type of legislation. All these asylum seekers that were saying, we're coming from different country, and it was just lining up where they're at. I mean, if you listen to the reports, it's like down to next to nothing, or whatever the case may be. So it leaves the person to me like, okay, we had all these people that saying they were asylum seeker and they whatever, and they really need to be here. And now you have Trump here going crazy about deporting people and tagging people and shipping them off to different countries. I Where you at now? You see what I'm saying? So,
Well, so
it's
to that, I would
go ahead.
say that one of the big reasons why we've seen border crossings and asylum seeking plummet is because Donald Trump shut down access to the southern border. You're currently you can't. Uh, that's why the rates have gone drastically down. It's because the amount of people who can cross the southern border, due to Donald Trump's invocation of emergency powers, which I think were completely in
Mhm.
utterly bad faith, you're not allowed to do it. Um, so
But you're not allowed to do.
he signed an executive order saying that there's no physical entrance, it like into the southern border by immigrants. You're not allowed to seek asylum there, or you're not allowed like
Oh, really?
entrance. Yeah,
Oh wow, I need to look at. I didn't know that. I know he wow. No no asylum seekers.
at the southern border.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So like that's, and I think that was illegal. And not only do I think that was illegal, I think that was wildly immoral. But the first thing I would say is that if we're having a drop in immigration because, you know, if they come here, they're faced with the threat of being deported to a torture prison in El Salvador. I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to curb our immigration. I think that like torturing a couple immigrants in order to prevent immigrants coming across is probably not the best way to fix our border. And then the second thing I would say to that is that what happens after Donald Trump's term? It's nothing.
Yeah.
The benefit of getting something through Congress, even if it makes you look bad because you're moving slow, the benefit of getting something through Congress is that you need an act of Congress to get rid of that. That thing is permanent
It's
until Congress overturns it. The, but
it,
it's binding law at that point. What Donald Trump is doing
it,
with executive orders, with states of national emergency, and with just simply his presence expires in 4 years. If somebody doesn't like an executive order he signs, they just get rid of it. Um,
it,
so that's one of the big things as well, is that Donald Trump isn't actually fixing the problem; he's prolonging the problem. He's kicking the can down the road.
see, and what you're saying is going to be crucial because right now they have control of the Senate and they have control of the House. Technically speaking, they can go ahead and push their bill through in terms of border reform. Like
That's
you
true.
said,
I almost
if
promise you they won't. I almost promise you there will not be a border bill under Donald Trump.
and you know what? It's going to be their own to their own detriment because I have a feeling like you that it's going things are going to change in the next election and hopefully the Democrats will win back whole the House. And if that's the case, then they're not going to get the type of border reform bill that they could have had if they're like they don't even realize that they should be passing the border reform bill right now while they have control. But I'm curious to see if they're gonna wake up and realize that before the midterms happen.
Well, I mean, part of the problem too is that I think whenever people talk about Donald Trump's approach, they kind of forget that he was already president for 4 years. Like
Hmm.
he had Congress under his first term as well for I think two
Hmm.
years, and there was no border bill there either. The only thing that he got done was funding towards the wall that didn't get built. So that's the only border reform that he got done in his first term, other than the executive orders that got completely undermined under as soon as Joe Biden came into office, which is what executive orders do. That's what happens when you hand the reins off to a ideologically different president. That's why it's so important to press for a border bill. But I mean, I don't have enough money to bet, but I
Yeah,
could almost bet you that there's not going to be any comprehensive immigration reform under Donald Trump. I can almost promise you. And the reason is because Donald Trump just passed a fucking 900-page bill full of everything that he aims to do in this administration. I wouldn't be shocked if this is the last big bill that gets passed, period. And then, two, Donald Trump has already come out and said we didn't need a new legislation, we needed a new president. He's already expressed that
exactly,
he's not
exactly,
interested in passing new legislation. So
exactly. I
it's
think
just not going to happen, and it didn't happen under his first term, and the Democrats wanted it to happen. So I don't think the answer is, well, let's just torture a couple of them so they don't come across. I think the answer is that we need a very long-term solution that Republicans just aren't interested in giving right now.
well, so yeah, I'm like I said, I'm curious to see if they're going to drop the ball on this and not push any type of reform before midterm. I mean, if that's the case in the Democrats win back the House, then I'm going to be laughing at them because they had an opportunity and they blew it. Um, I forgot what I was about to say, but go ahead. I'll let you go back. You have it.
The only question I would have is I don't mean for this to be too confrontational, but like
Mhm.
like why weren't you laughing at Donald Trump when his first term ended for not getting the border bill passed?
Um, when you say laughing at it, what do you mean?
So you said like you're gonna be laughing at Donald Trump if his term ends without a border bill, but I mean like he ran on the same exact issues in his first term that won him the reelection in the second term. I don't understand why
So,
Republicans weren't laughing at him for not calling you a Republican, but like in general,
okay.
people who say this weren't laughing at him after his first term when he got relatively nothing done legislatively other than tax cuts.
So I do kind of hold him accountable. I think he did make some efforts in terms of building a wall. I think that was one of his selling points. But with that administration, I think Donald Trump was a novice at that point in time, and I think he was too busy, focused, grifting. Um, at least what I can see. Um, and he did not know exactly all the levels and levers he could take in terms of the first administration. So I think he kind of like squandered it, and now that he's back a second time, he's more of a, what's the word? A wise criminal, smarter criminal. And this time around, if he doesn't get it done, I think it's probably even worse. I give him slack because that was his first time and he probably didn't know any better. But this time around, I think he should know a lot better. And if he's stupid enough to leave it up to executive order, then that's gonna be on them. That's how I see it.
Okay. I mean, I probably disagree with this idea that Donald Trump is any more. I think he's probably less wise in this second term than he was in his first term. He like if you watch a single like debate performance for his run up in 2016 compared to like the press conferences that he's giving now, like infinitely more sharp. And it seems like he knew what he was talking about more. Right now, it feels like Donald Trump is not necessarily more keen to play the process how it's supposed to be and how like he's going to like go to Congress, get all of this debated, try and lobby Congress to get this bill passed, try and do everything he can. It seems like right now what he's looking to do is just find loopholes to like invoke bad faith emergency powers or to do everything he can to actually go around Congress so he can get
So
quick like short-term solutions rather than long-term solutions and then pass the buck. I don't see like this will of Trump or the Trump administration to work with Congress almost at all.
okay, so okay, so when I say smarter, like than this time around, I think he like in terms of understanding how presidency work and knowing what he can get away with and things of that nature. I think he's smarter in that regards. Meaning, like when he first came in, he was new and he relied on a lot of people. He put people around him, per se, that would probably hold him um to restrain him. Like when you think about some of the people that he had around him, his um I can't remember their names right now, but I think this time around, he now, as you look at his administration, these are like just straight up people, hard diehard Trump fan, and he's put people in roles so he can get away with certain things. Like when you look at Bondi, when you look at
Yeah.
Patel and things of that nature, he's smart. Now I'm gonna put people that I know I can um that's gonna do what I tell them to do, as opposed to a William Barr or a Bolton or a Pompey or whatever the case may be. So he's gotten smarter in that regards. He's putting his friends, hardcore friends, around him, so now nobody can tell on him.
So I guess my question is, do you think
Mhm.
that he's actually smarter, or do you think he's just less concerned with being reelected?
I think he's smarter from the aspect that he knows who to put around him, so he can get away with a lot more murder this time around.
I don't think it's because he's smarter. I think it's because he knows that he can kind of compromise some of the optics with some of his actions because he's the president and he doesn't need to worry about getting elected again. Like he has his second term. Even if he runs for a third term, I think everybody knows that he would lose. Um, that like I think the reason why he's feeling so confident to do a lot of these more bad faith workarounds or like more clear loopholes in laws or more like authoritarian or divisive action is because he knows that he doesn't need to, at the end of his 3.5 years, start trying to get popular support for a reelection campaign.
Yeah. To that point, I do agree that he's operating from the aspect that he's not running again, so he doesn't have to answer to anyone. Um, and that is driving a lot of his actions. And then also we need to account for what the Court said in terms of what a presidency can do and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So now Trump knows that anything that he wants to do, all he has to do is wrap it up in executive privileges,
Yep.
and he can't be prosecuted after he leaves the office. So from that vantage point, he's gonna whatever he's gonna do bad or malicious or whatever, he's gonna wrap it up in some type of executive privilege or action of a presidency, so he can't be prosecuted. And I think that's one degree that he's weaponizing his actions as well.
Yeah, I probably agree with that.
And I just, bruh. So how did you feel when Carmelo lost? I was like, I was devastated for her.
So I'm not somebody who's super emotional. Um, but I mean, like when I was driving to work the next day, I definitely was like, oh fuck, like that kind of feeling. I felt that a handful of times already through this presidency as well. Um, but I mean, I knew. So I'm also like, I'm a pretty big patriot. Like I have a pretty decent amount of faith in our country as a unit. I knew that like it doesn't feel to me like anybody could come into the United States and completely destroy our system within 4 years. That's just not something that has really been on the table to me. I feel like our institutions are too strong to allow that. But I knew that like, and it also helps because I'm in like a super privileged position. You know, I have some amount of economic stability. I have a strong support system, and I have like I'm a white guy, so I'm probably not going to be on the chopping block per se. But I definitely knew that I was going to be hearing like some of the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life for the next coming 4 years, and that um you know in 2024 I knew the country was, or in 2025 I knew the country was not going to be the same thing by the time 2028 came around. And that was that didn't feel good, obviously, but yeah, I mean, it didn't like hit at me super emotionally. It was just like an acknowledgement that like the next couple years are going to be really really crazy and really really hectic, and you just got to kind of keep your head on you and make sure you're not too overwhelmed by the strategy, because that's the whole point.
Yeah, I think I was most concerned by Donald Trump's criminal minded. Is that if that's a word?
Yeah.
Criminal mindedness, his inclination to commit criminal acts. I just knew this was going to be an off hinge presidency.
Hmm.
And one of the other factor I was concerned about was Ukraine, because I know they had no
Yeah.
love Ukraine, and I know that people were going to lose their life. And I also wondered about our allies, and as you can see, that relationship is splintered. I just like,
Hmm.
yo,
Yeah, look at the way that
I'm
we're
like,
treating Canada right now. I mean,
exactly. I'm like, yo, y'all don't see what this guy's about to do, and I just like, okay, yeah, that's why I was really frustrated by it, and I was just so frustrated by the Democrats as well, because I mean, how do you not beat someone that had two indictments and I mean, excuse me, two impeachments and four indictments? You can't. I was just
yeah.
so, I was so upset with the group, but
Yeah, I mean, like, whenever I started getting into politics and debate and shit, I was like cursorily into it in 2020, but I didn't know shit. But when I started getting like back, like reintroduced into these kind of circles and communities in 2024 in preparation for the election, one of the big things that drew me back was the Jack Smith indictments and the probes around January 6th and like kind of the mainstreaming of like all the crazy shit that happened around that event. Um, so yeah, that was definitely like I absolutely know, and I wrote like a big document about January 6th too. So I've like read most of the documents that there are to read about January 6th. I am very well aware of like Donald Trump's criminal propensities and like his willingness to work with like sleazeball lawyers in order to break the law for him. That was definitely like a really big consideration for me, not only like when he won the election, but also on the lead up and like why I felt it was so important to fight against somebody like that, especially since like the crimes were not just to, like enrich yourself or whatever. It was like literally to destroy democracy and America as we know it.
Yeah. And follow suit what you said. It in connecting with something we were talking about earlier. It amazes me when I see people like Rob and them just uh defend his blatantly criminal acts. I'm like, Rob, he has a defense for everything. As I listen to him, what I started doing is because I was recently introduced to him.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the first clips I saw was from Rob is his debate with Destiny. I'm like, okay, cool. I started listening to more of his stuff, whatever, and trying to do some my own opera research and look at a lot of his older videos and kind of understand with him. So from my vantage point, I think I understand where he's at. He does have some criticisms of Donald Trump, but he doesn't have the criticism that he should have with him.
Yeah.
Like in terms with Trump, he'll be mad that Trump didn't do anything with the corruption with the FBI, whatever the case may be. But he's totally blinded to Trump's own blatant corruption or level of corruption. So his motivations or his sensitivity for negative in Trump is misguided from that vantage point, and he also sees the Democrats as contradictory um, in their statements and actions, and I would have to agree with him. I've seen him debate people like Pisco, and those people do act dishonest in certain areas, whatever the case may be. Even with I didn't want to call him out, but he did catch Ryan in our last
Oh my
debate.
God.
It was
Yeah.
it was a point where Ryan had said earlier that um, Trump was more deranged and delusional than Biden, right? So that
Yeah.
was
That
Ryan's
was fucking
position.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah, so then when we fast forward, we started talking about why it was proper to not prosecute Biden because he was a elderly deranged man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, you have to apply that same rule for
Right. Yeah.
Trump as well.
Yeah.
And Ryan got caught up there like this, like oh.
Yeah.
But see, I would have never taken that route, whatever the case may be. But um something I wanted to tie back to what you were saying.
Mhm.
What is your political background? How did you kind of get started and wind up here to
Um.
doing?
So around 2020, I'm a younger guy. I'm 21 now. I don't
Okay.
remember. I don't remember how old I was when I first started reading into everything, but I mean, around 2020 was the thing that really elevated my political understandings because of, I don't know if you remember, there was like a really big thing around 2020. It was called COVID-19, and it was a very politically divisive kind of thing. So I ended up reading into a lot of that stuff, and that's kind of what sparked a lot of my early political interest. I was
Okay.
definitely a lot further left than I was at the time because those kind of like utopian ideas sound really good to somebody who's in high school. But it, like yeah, so I started out as like a socialist dude in 2020, basically just arguing against anti-vaxxers and shit, and that was my main thing. But I've always viewed like debate as like sharing ideas as the best way to gain knowledge because there's no better way to um learn than asking somebody that's smarter than you questions about a topic that you kind of understand. You know, like having these kind of dialogues. Um, so I started out like that. I started streaming I think in 2021 or 2022. Um, Took a long break because graduation from high school is kind of crazy. Um, that I ended up coming back around the time of the 2024 election because that was a very politically divisive time. And, you know, I
Yeah.
started reading once the Georgia, I really started digging deeper into political stuff whenever the Georgia indictment of Donald Trump dropped. Because like the first time a president gets criminally indicted is going to be something that definitely piques your interest. So I read through the indictment and I tried to understand what was alleged of it, and then when I finally realized, I was like, "Holy fuck!" And like that's kind of what um, drilled me into being like a never Trumper guy. And then from there on, I just kind of built off of that. Um, Kind of backwards to this probably isn't the best process, but I like built off of that and then slowly started getting into more niche or it like cursorily related topics until I'm just like, and I'm still trying to do this now, like trying to get a better base to build all of my opinions on, trying to build my ethical views a little more. Um, but the igniting things that got like my interest in politics and debate was the Georgia indictment in 2020 and or against Trump for the 2020 election, and you know all of the vaccine denial in 2020.
Cool. So when you started streaming, what platform was it on? Was it like TikTok or was it like YouTube?
I started so like the first time around I started on Twitch, and then when I left I came back on TikTok because they had the multi guest feature where you could just join into other people's live streams. So that's the thing that kind of drew me back into doing debates, like having them kind of at my fingertips. Because when you do them on Twitch and you just do like open calls, at the time StreamYards wasn't around either, so I couldn't do those kind of debates either. It was it was a fuck ton harder to actually engage like that. But then whenever I like checked TikTok and these kind of things were popping off, um, it was a lot more enticing because it was just so immediately right there. Um, and then I started eventually recording those calls. Whenever I would join somebody's live stream, I would record that, and then I got enough followers on my TikTok account to where I could start going live myself, and then going live on TikTok myself inspired me to start going live on YouTube again, and then that's inspired me to start going live on Twitch again, and seeking out like bigger content creators to talk to, and we're here.
Okay. So you still utilizing Twitch
Yeah,
simultaneously?
I multi-stream to YouTube and Twitch.
Oh, right now, so you're multi-streaming?
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Okay, so and your biggest following right now is on
it's
which platform?
I probably get the most viewership on TikTok,
Okay.
but I pay the most attention to YouTube.
Okay.
Twitch is just kind of the only reason that I stream to Twitch is because it's easy to multi-stream to YouTube and Twitch. But
Okay.
I get a lot of the content off of TikTok, but I focus the most on YouTube, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. No problem. And so you said like 2022 or the Georgia time is when you started to focus your presence in YouTube?
Around 2024, yeah, whenever
Okay.
the Georgia indictment dropped.
Okay. Okay, cool. I was just curious how everyone kind of made their way to
Yeah, sure.
um debating on politics on YouTube. Um
How did you end up? So I don't know if you are like a content creator either, but I mean, like, how did you end up getting onto Sarah's panels?
okay, so I so my political history, I think I've always liked politics or whatever
Mhm.
for the largest part, kind of tuned into it or whatever, tapped into it, listen to it in the background when you're doing something or whatever, play CNN or whatever the case may be. But I think when I really got the bug is during the Donald Trump's first administration. I was just like watching him, wherever the case may be, watching it, and it was like after it's like he was just doing so much. He kept doing. I'm like, okay, after he won or whatever the case may be, I said, okay, this might be different. Hillary, this might turn out to be something cool, y- something unexpected or whatever. But
Hmm.
after he just couldn't get himself together, he just kept doing stuff after stuff. It was like he couldn't like stop being a baby and just being petty and let stuff go. After I just got so sick of him. I'm like, I just ready for this dude to go. And then, of course, COVID and stuff that came in. So his presidency, um, kind of woke me up to politics.
Hmm.
And I'll give you this analogy. Just imagine you're going from like the East Coast, excuse me, like North Carolina to California, right?
Hmm.
And then all the time you're used to a driver or whatever that stays in the lane. They do all the stop, they don't speed, or whatever the case may be, and you're able to play on the bus and sleep or whatever the case may be, and just do your regular stuff, right?
Hmm.
And then you get this new driver who is just speeding, running on the grass or whatever the case may be, and you can't sleep at night because you don't know if he's gonna cross the middle lane or whatever. That's how I explained the Trump presidency. If it was Hillary or someone else, some little regular politician, I probably never took interest to politics as I'm doing right now. But
Hmm.
because Donald Trump was such a disruptive force on the political stage. It made me pay more attention to him, and I could not go to sleep because I had to watch this driver. And now he's back in the driver's seat again, and I'm watching him again, and I'm just agitated. So that's where
Yeah.
I'm at. And I do YouTube content. I'm one of the few YouTube contents. I don't do a lot of live stream,
Hmm.
but I'm one of the few YouTube contents that has video editing skills. So if I put out a video or whatever, if you see a video on my channel, it's something that I recorded and produced or whatever, and I release it like that. So I don't. I'm gonna eventually try to do a live stream, but um, one other thing I should say, if you haven't noticed, I'm not a good public speaker. I'm nervous, so
Hmm.
a lot. So I'm kind of that's why I'm engaging a lot of these people and a lot of these platforms because I realize that the only way that I can get better at this is to put myself out there and start
Yeah. Exposure
interacting with
therapy.
people.
Yep.
Yeah, like Rob or whatever. Even if you get knocked across the head a couple of times, which he did get me good on when I made appearance on this episode. But now I know Rob is a lie because I look back at episode and he lied to me a couple of times. And then next time I run into him, I'm gonna remind him of those lies that he told
Hmm.
or whatever. But the one of the which I already knew. I'm grateful that my experience on this platform because like you. Now I know that I must get into, if I'm going to be serious about this, I have to do what you did a while ago, and that's just read those documents and be abreast of the facts and be abreast of the specifics
Hmm.
because it's important when you're talking to these people because they're equally abreast and they're not going to be honest about they're not going to tell you when they're wrong, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like just for the 2v2 debate panel that I had with that I ended up having on Sarah's thing, I spent like 4 days researching like fraud, waste, and abuse of the government and the different controversies with Doge and shit.
Wait a minute, yeah, didn't you go after you were against gridlock, right?
Yeah, grid one and Pentuple. Yep.
Yes, okay, so I watched that because that's who I got introduced to I got introduced to Gridlock from a black YouTuber. I don't even want to give his name any praise because his channel it's like the Jerry Springer. It's just like
Okay.
it's no holds bar type of it's just like racist, just like it's just like you don't want to go. So
Gotcha.
and Grid used to be on there. So I my goal right now is the only way that I can get better at being um sharpening my points of views and learning stuff is to interact with people who have opposing views.
Hmm.
So he was one of the persons or whatever that had open bite to his channel. So I just start sitting in his chat or whatever, and I say a little slick side stuff or whatever. So he knows I'm not like a Trump, whatever. So
Yeah,
and then from there I got introduced to Raging Tomato or whatever, and that's why saw your debate
yeah, yeah.
with him.
I think I did pretty good in that debate personally, but
That's so weird. He came back and he thought he won or whatever. I'm like, you guys were being so dishonest or whatever. I'm like, yeah. And one thing I hate, well, I say hate about debates. What I prefer of debates is if they could actually let you guys present facts or whatever,
mhm.
and be sourced, so you can, so that someone just can't sit up there and lie and make up stuff on the fly. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big person for it. It's kind of viewed as a taboo, which sucks. But I'm a big source guy. I have like I take notes on Obsidian, so I have like big note documents on a lot of the things that I argue over, and like whenever I read a document, I take like the page number down and I put it in the. I have like a big resource library. So
Okay.
I'm a big like source provider or like source asker, and it's kind of like a taboo thing because like it's generally viewed as like an asshole move to like source check somebody. Um, but
What?
I'm a big well, it's just because like a lot of people don't have like lists of notes that they have. They don't have like citations that they have for particular arguments. They're just reciting something that they heard on the news somewhere. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like kind of seen as a taboo to like ask somebody to go and look that up, you know?
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, to look it up. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
but yeah.
yeah, I need a debate. Well, if I was going to debate someone, you know, prefer ask if we can have it, present evidence or whatever,
Hmm.
just in case someone wants to lie, because nothing's good like playing a video that discredits someone in the midst of their lying. And they was okay. They were lying so much. It was like, bruh, why they're being so dishonest with a lot of their viewpoints. I can't remember that stuff. It was a lot of stuff, and it just downplaying the stuff. Like he was saying that um that he actually saved the people the $2 trillion. I'm like, how do you? But
Yeah,
it's
the biggest thing that I remember from that debate is I remember that Grid accused me of cherry picking data when I was citing the annual savings of the inspector general, and then he immediately said that you should actually just be focusing on the fraud within U.S. aid, yeah, which
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
actually cherry picking. Yeah, that's
yeah,
the main thing that whenever I think about that debate that sticks out, and the fact that he said
yeah.
that funding the IRS or defunding the IRS wouldn't have an effect on tax collection, but um, that's whatever.
I have two questions. Let me write it down. Before I forget.
Mhm.
Uh, Doge. Yeah.
I'll be right back. I have to let my cat in my room real quick.
Okay.
All right.
So, one of the questions I was going to ask you, like you are, I realize that I need to beef up my understanding. There's certain things I'm strong on
Mhm.
or confident on, but I don't know all the details specifically with with um the Russian investigation, whatever. There are like a lot
Mhm.
of fine details and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, at this point in time, what are you information, which area do you feel you solid in? And I would presume Dodge because you already researched that. And what are the next areas that you've like two areas that you're going to be focusing on?
In terms of like what I'm solid on, I mean, I feel like I've done a lot of research on like constitutional rights when it comes to due process. I know a lot of like the stuff surrounding election certification now. But most of the stuff that I know is mostly just whatever I've taken time to research into. So like anything that I've had to do like debate prep for, I'm going like I feel like I have pretty solid sea legs on. So like I talked to one conservative lawyer about due process rights, so I feel like my understanding of that topic is fairly deep. I scheduled like a 2v2 debate on January 6th, though my understanding of that topic is fairly deep. I obviously had the debate panel on Doge, so I feel like my understanding of that topic is fairly deep. Um, and the
I'm
thing
sorry,
that
what's the topic before Doge on Tubi?
January
What was
6th.
that? Okay.
But like as
Okay,
it
so
pertains to what I'm looking into now, like I'm trying to um kind of understand more baseline broad um topics like ethical worldview, or like I'm trying to get my history a little better, or like my economic understanding. Right now
mhm,
I've been reading a
mhm,
lot about like tariffs and globalization. um
mhm,
so, but I mean it mostly just depends on a mix of what the current talking points are, like what the current national conversation is surrounded by, and you know, having those kind of dig me into holes that dig me into different holes that dig me into different holes. So like um the tariff thing kind of led to whether or not I trust capitalism or the profit motive as a system, and then that kind of leads me
mhm.
into like Soviet history, and it's just kind of like following those holes
Uh,
wherever they lead.
yeah, yeah. It's politics is a vast world, and yeah,
Yeah.
um, of I had to like list the stacks of my books and stuff, areas I need to cover. It's just growing. So you said
Ryan's
January
here,
6th.
radical coder, my goat. How's it going?
Where's Ryan? I've been waiting on you, Ryan, to go live. Ryan, I went up on his platform, which I really shouldn't have at that point in time,
Mm-hmm.
because I just nuked my computer and I have my data points on them. But I have to tell you about my visit to Rob's platform. But any rate,
Mm-hmm.
what was I saying? I was going to ask you a question about your January 6th knowledge or whatever. So you
Mm-hmm.
felt comfortable debating Rob on January 6th? You know all the ins and outs?
I've talked to so I've the 2v2 that I prepared for was with two other people. But as it pertains to talking to Rob, I've talked to him on a very like short basis about January 6th. I don't think that's a topic that he's super interested in. If I was a Republican, I would do everything that I can to
Wait a
stay away
minute.
from that
Okay,
topic too. But
I'm getting January 6th mixed up. Why I'm think waiting January 6th to the Russia investigation. Okay, cool.
oh, okay, yeah, the
Uh
Russia investigation is a whole different can of worms.
yeah, that's
I haven't gone all the way down into that. I've just read like bits and pieces
okay.
of I know like the general outline of the Mueller report, and I read
Yeah.
like the Manafort indictments and stuff.
So that's what I'm trying to get you radical. I'm trying to link up with what I'm trying to do is kind of I know I need to hit the books.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to find some people who are trying to hit the books as well so I could study along with them. I know what
Yeah,
I
for sure.
need to work on.
Hmm.
I know what I need to work on. I definitely had need to get my knowledge down with this Russian stuff or whatever, know the ins and outs.
Hmm.
That's what I want to learn. The first impeachment. Um, I want to go back and know the ins and outs in terms of all the people that testified, Sunderland and all these people, whatever. And then also, as you said, the January 6th. The January 6th, I just when I listen to some of the defense they put up, um, it's like like
Laughable.
the one argument they can some of them continues to say they said um it was peaceful, the peaceful aspect. They
Yeah.
were led inside so it was peaceful. I'm like that line of argument blows my mind every time. They
Hmm.
just totally forget the first half where they beat people,
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah.
I mean, hey, I mean, I like this. I'm kind of trying to build my community around people who are equally willing to go and like autistically deep dive into random bullshit. That's the kind of people I exactly love talking to. So Yeah, if you ever want to, ask talk to anybody in here about what they're reading into, or like asking a question about a particular topic, I might have somebody in here. I know that there's a couple people who do know a decent amount about the RussiaGate bullshit that they could link you a bunch of stuff. Um,
S-
I
So tell me, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, 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 you are.
Yeah, I just in general, I mean, like, I also publish all of my notes. If you go to, there's a Discord channel called Find Ringold. You can find the Obsidian link is where I post all of my notes. They're all public. I link off to everything.
Okay,
Um, I mean, take my word with a grain of salt because I'm just some rando on the internet, but I link off to everything too. So,
okay. My my reporting style or note-taking style looks looks like getting videos and um taking clips of videos, documenting those, as well as writing it down using Excel sheet, and also
mhm.
writing down notes in Word or whatever, to sort of like a report, like whatever, sort
Yeah,
of like a Mueller report where you just like it's in
yeah,
detail
like a
like that.
more
So that's
formal, yeah,
mhm. That's how I try to build a database around that.
yeah.
Um, what was I about to say? I forgot that quick. We're talking about how you different subjects or whatever. I
Mhm.
forgot. So yeah, I know I want to ask you your channel. Tell me about your channel. What like type of lives? Because I jumped in on this one. Trump is bad. And you were reading a document earlier, I think. So like your
Mhm.
live streams are based off just reading documents, or what's going on?
It's a variety of stuff. So sometimes if I have like a particular thing that I want to deep dive into, I'll just read a bunch of stuff on stream. This time around, there's another content creator. His name is Non Fun, and he knows a lot more about econ. So I just had said like, hey, what do you know about the Big Beautiful Bill? Do you have anything interesting that I could read? And he linked me a bunch of shit, so I just read it. So that's what this stream was. But like I do a lot of debates. That's a big part of my stream as well, is just having people on to have these kind of conversations. Obviously this isn't so much a debate, it's just more so like a just a one-to-one conversation. But that's also a big part of the content that you'll find on my channel is uh, I'd probably say like 90% debates. But like I'll also like review debates sometimes. Like I'll watch other people's debates, or I'll like read through indictments whenever like big legal documents come out. I'll read through that. Like I read through the recent legal filing from Kilmar Brega Garcia about the
It's
conditions in
okay.
CCOT. Yeah, so I it's a lot of reading and a lot of debating, and that's most of what it is. Sometimes I'll play a
Okay.
video game if I'm bored.
Okay. Have you read the Florida document indictment for Donald Trump?
I know I did a long time ago, but I didn't take notes on it. I know that when I was talking to Rob, I ended up going back for some of the details, but I couldn't talk to him before. And Rob like super misrepresented one of the things, but I didn't get the chance to bring it up before he left. But yeah,
This is
I have read it before, but I haven't done like my like a big note taking on it. I want to go through the documents indictment, and then go through the Her report for Joe Biden, like the report on his classified documents, and just really,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I want to do
Yeah,
a research dive on that because I feel like I've mostly um, got a pretty decent understanding of it. I just want to make sure.
Rob is when did you talk to him about that with his last visit with
Yeah,
his debate night
every
with
time I've
Picard?
talked to Rob, it's been on Sarah's
For
panel.
Raging Stairs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Rob, his position always is he's going to find a way to whatever the Dim did was much more worse, and here's the reason why.
Yeah.
Trump did this small, but this is why the Dims was worse, and this is the reason why. And that's his game plan every time.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that. So with the document situation, here's what you don't actually have to read it. I found if you Google Trump indictment document and then read along, certain people go out there and they'll have a AI reading the document for you, so you can
Mhm.
actually like listen to it while you're at work or whatever, which is what I did. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I listened to it, and that is just like when you listen to all the stuff he did.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. It's just like, how do you defend something like that? But leave it to Rob. He'll find a way to make put up a good defense. And Rob is, like you said, he is one of the best. He's like he's like a White House press secretary or whatever. You know how they get to the podium and they have to know a variety of different subjects. So when the reporter asks them, they'll have a quick answer. The best person I've seen that's been like that, what's her name? Kelly, not Kelly, McKelly. She's not a Fox. She's a Fox News host. Um, she was she was under Donald Trump,
Hmm.
and she would come so prepared. She'd be ready for them, whatever. So when they asked their little, she was like a Smith out of the Matrix or whatever. She just like lassoed them, whatever. So and a lot like Rob. Rob is very research and read or whatever. So if yeah, I have to focus and get myself learned, if that's a word.
Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta go to bed. I'm in EST, so it's about 2 a.m. here.
Okay.
But hey, I appreciate the conversation. And if you ever want to talk about anything else, I do these open call streams a decent amount. So if you ever want to chat, just let me know. I hope I see you on future debates. And if you ever have if you're looking for some particular document or you don't know where to start on a particular topic, feel free to talk to the people in the server, and they'll help you out.
Will do. Thanks so much, man. Take care.
Yep. Good chatting.
All right, bye bye.
Goat. Goat status for Calvin. Okay. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm tired. Delta just joined. Thank God. You always join right where I'm getting ready to go off.